All right, so get ready to go back in time a little bit, because today we are diving into Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, released back in '94. And let me tell you, for movie fans like myself, this was huge E.
Yeah, it really was something else. I think what's so interesting about Pulp Fiction is that it really flipped the script in Hollywood. Back then it was all about those big budget blockbusters, and then bam, this super violent but darkly funny indie film comes out of nowhere and just completely changes the game.
Everyone was quoting it too. Royale with cheese. Instant classic.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about the cool lines, right?
Right. Pulp Fiction's success definitely went way beyond just how much money it made. Like, it proved that independent film could be cool, that people actually wanted something different from those big studio movies, and it had a lasting impact. We're still talking about it decades later.
So how did it do that? Why are we still talking about this movie decades later? What did Tarantino do that was so different?
Well, he really tapped into what was already happening in the culture. Like, the whole grunge scene was blowing up then, that whole do-it-yourself attitude. People were tired of being told what to like. In Pulp Fiction, it was raw, it was edgy, it was something totally new.
Okay, so for anyone who hasn't actually seen it, and you really should, what's the deal with this movie?
Imagine this. You've got these hitmen having these deep conversations about life, a mobster's wife on this crazy night out, a boxer facing his destiny, and it's all out of order. Tarantino throws out the whole idea of a traditional story structure and creates this wild puzzle of a film.
And it totally works. But that jumbled timeline, though, was that hard for people to follow back then?
It was risky. Audiences just weren't used to having to pay that much attention. But that's a big part of what makes it so great. It keeps you guessing, trying to put the pieces together.
And the dialogue. It's like every other line became an instant classic. Say what again?
Tarantino's dialogue is pure magic. It's sharp, it's funny, and sometimes it's totally shocking. But it all has a purpose. He uses it to create tension, to show us who these characters really are, and to build this whole world that just feels like Pulp Fiction.
So true. And it's not just what they're saying, but how they say it, too. But we've got to talk about the music, because this wasn't your typical movie score, right?
Oh, definitely not. Tarantino uses music like it's another character in the film. You've got surf rock soul, that unforgettable use of "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon." It all just adds to the movie's cool and unique vibe, and sets the perfect mood.
Okay, so we've got style, substance, but what about lasting impact? Is Pulp Fiction really that big of a deal when you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just a fun movie to watch. It felt like Pulp Fiction really did change cinema.
Oh, it absolutely did. It really did for filmmakers. It was like this bolt out of the blue. Suddenly there were all these new possibilities, like messing with the timeline, genre bending, using music in a whole new way. Tarantino showed everyone that you could break the rules and still make a movie that people loved.
And so many movies tried to copy that style. But you're right, nobody does it like Tarantino.
Exactly. And one of the things that makes Pulp Fiction so special is that he uses all those cool visual tricks to tell a better story. Like those long tracking shots, remember those? They create this crazy tension and suspense. It's like you're right there in the scene. Oh, yeah, totally, like that scene in the pawn shop. Talk about intense. But you're right. It's not just about looking cool. You really feel it.
And then there's a violence, too, like these quick bursts of it that are almost like something out of a comic book. They're shocking, but they also have a purpose. They remind you that these characters are living in this really messed up world, that there are consequences to everything they do.
Yeah, and it's weird because with all that darkness and violence, there's also this strange sense of humor. Like 1 minute they're talking about a foot massage, and then bam! Things get real dark real fast.
That's classic Tarantino, though, right? He keeps you guessing. You're never totally comfortable. Yeah. You're laughing 1 minute and then on the edge of your seat the next. And that's part of what makes it so rewatchable, too. You notice something new every time you see it.
We've been talking a lot about Tarantino's style, but we can't forget about the actors. I mean, Travolta, Jackson, Thurman, this movie made them huge stars.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they all deserve every bit of praise they got. It's like Tarantino wrote those parts just for them. Like John Travolta, everyone thought he was just that guy from Grease, But then he gives this amazing performance as Vincent Vega, this hitman who's trying to deal with his own guilty conscience. You can't take your eyes off him.
And Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
He I.S. Jules Winfield. That whole Ezekiel speech still gives me chills.
Right. And of course, Uma Thurman as Mia Wallace. She's so seductive and dangerous, a really complicated character. Such an iconic performance. It really made her a Tarantino icon.
And it's not just them either, right? Even the smaller parts are so memorable, like Christopher Walken as Captain Coons. Or Harvey Keitel showing up as the wolf to clean up that mess.
I know, it's amazing. Every character, no matter how small their part is, feels real. Like they have this whole story behind them. And that just shows you how talented Tarantino is as a writer and a director. He creates these incredible worlds full of characters that you'll never forget.
And those characters are always doing these completely unexpected things.
Yeah.
I mean, how many movies have a scene where a hitman has to give a mobster's wife an adrenaline shot to the heart?
Right.
It's crazy. It's intense. But you can't look away.
And that's the genius of Pulp Fiction. It always keeps you guessing. It takes these familiar ideas like hitmen, mob bosses, diner robberies, and turns them into something totally new and unexpected.
It's like you think you know what's going to happen next, and then bam!
Yeah.
Tarantino throws you for a loop.
Exactly. But even with all the crazy twists and turns, Pulp Fiction is really a story about people trying to connect with each other. It's about these flawed characters who do bad things, who are trying to find some meaning in their lives, to make things right.
And you know what's amazing is that even though it came out over 25 years ago, it still feels relevant today. Why do you think that is? What is it about Pulp Fiction that still speaks to audiences today after all these years?
I think for me, it's the characters. Like, yeah, they're in this world of crime and violence, but they still feel so real, so human.
Right, exactly. It's like they're not just these stereotypes. They have real emotions, fears, insecurities. Vince Dane to make sense of it all, Jules in his crisis of faith, Mia almost dying.
Yeah.
Those moments make you care about them even when they're doing awful things. You're rooting for them, even though they might not deserve it. You want them to figure things out, to find some kind of peace in all the madness.
Totally. It's like Tarantino is showing us the world as it really is, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly. And he's not afraid to ask those really tough questions about right and wrong, about fate and the choices we make.
And he does it all with this amazing visual style. I mean, we talked about the tracking shots, the violence, but it's more than that. It's the way he uses color, the way he sets up a shot, that mix of genres. And it's like he's created this whole new language for film.
And it's a language that has been so influential. After Pulp Fiction, everyone was trying to copy that style.
Yeah.
But there's only one Tarantino.
For sure. So for anyone listening who hasn't seen Pulp Fiction in a while, or maybe they've just heard about it, why should they check it out? What makes it worth watching again after all these years?
Because it's more than just a movie. It's a whole experience. It's a film that got people talking, that challenged the rules, and reminded everyone that movies could be entertaining and make you think. It's a wild ride, and it still matters just as much today as it did back in '94.
A true classic. And you know what? It reminds us that sometimes it's the stories that break all the rules, the ones you least expect, that really stick with you.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe after watching it again, you'll finally have figured out what's in that briefcase.
Laughs, the million-dollar question, right? But that's what's so great about Pulp Fiction. It keeps us talking, keeps us thinking, keeps us coming back for more. And that is a legacy any filmmaker would be proud of.